Viofo A139 Pro versus the Vantrue N4 Pro. Both of these units are Sony Starvis 2. Which one do you think will win? We're going to be comparing daytime footage, nighttime footage. We have the tunnel test on here. We're also going to show you how it picks up license plates. Full comparison of parking mode and how they work. We're also going to go over all the basic specifications as we continue going through here. If you do have any questions, definitely feel free to leave a comment down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And also, the 70 MAI A810 new 4K Sony Starvis 2 dash camera with HDR, we have one coming to us. We ordered it. Why? Because we want to show how it does to all these other 4K dash cameras on the market. And we're going to also compare that to the U3000. That is going to be in upcoming weeks. So make sure you subscribe because you're not going to want to miss that video. Let's go. Dash cam resolution. Both the Viofo A139 Pro and Vantrue N4 Pro have a 4K 8 megapixel Sony Starvis 2 IMX678 image sensor. For their interior and rear camera, both of them are Sony Starvis 1080p image sensors. This is the Vantrue N4 Pro versus the Viofo A139 Pro daytime driving. We're going to start by chasing license plates, move on to direct sunlight, followed by city driving, and lastly, the rear camera's performance. Enjoy. 3-channel mode, you can actually see right here on the screen, the Vantrue N4 Pro will actually do 4K front, 1080p interior, and 1080p rear at 30 frames per second. While the Viofo A139 Pro, when in 3-channel mode, will drop down to 24 frames per second. So whether or not you run either one of these two dash cameras in 2-channel mode, whether that be front and cabin or front and rear, both of them have different resolution specifications. So for instance, the A139 Pro will go back to 30 frames per second in 2-channel mode. It also gives you the option of, when going down to 2K 1440p 60 frames per second, which you'll see Vantrue does not have the capability of doing 60 frames per second at all. However, it will still do the normal 30 frames per second throughout, with all the different various configurations that you can see here. In 1-channel mode or front only mode, the Viofo A139 Pro will run 4K 2160p at 30 frames per second, or give you the option of 2K 1440p at 60 frames per second, while the Vantrue will stick at 30 frames per second whether or not you're at 4K all the way down to 720p. Viewing angle. The Viofo A139 Pro has a front 140 degree wide viewing angle and rear and interior 170 degree wide viewing angle. The Vantrue N4 Pro has a front 155 degree, rear 165, and interior 160 degree viewing angle. Dual band Wi-Fi. Both the Viofo A139 Pro and Vantrue N4 Pro have the offerings of 2 GHz and 5 GHz Wi-Fi, and it is supported through an Android and iOS app. Now, in 5 GHz mode, it will allow you to download videos 3 to 4 times faster than 2 GHz. SD card capacity. Both Viofo and Vantrue will support up to a 512 gigabyte micro SD card. GPS information. Both the Viofo and Vantrue have GPS information. It will actually embed speed and location data directly onto the video. It will even give you the option of date and time stamp, branded model stamp, and your number plate. Now, if you do have a heavy foot, you can also turn off the speed stamp. That way it does not embed the speed directly into the video file. This is the Vantrue N4 Pro versus the Viofo A139 Pro. We're going to show you the differences between parking mode features. Then we're going to dive right into talking about the Vantrue N4 Pro and the uses of their parking mode. Then we're going to go right into current draw differences between 3-channel, 2-channel, and 1-channel, and then show you low battery protection. Enjoy. So let's dive right into parking mode. The N4 Pro we've put into impact detection, and we're going to make an impact.
Video protected. Video protected.
So there we go. We've hit it with the basketball. It's made impact. The N4 Pro is trying to wake up, and right now it took 12 seconds. 12 seconds to wake up after impact. So if a car hits you, it's going to take off. And we're just showing you the interior camera viewing so that you can see what the interior camera will actually pick up. So now both units are in motion detection. As you can see, they're both very good in terms of being the same timing, same buffering, no issues there. Also, if anybody's looking to sponsor my future basketball career, I'd like to take this time to say we are open to sponsorships for me being a professional basketball player. Now we're going to go to low bitrate recording. We left the A139 Pro in motion detection, and the low bitrate recording of the N4 Pro is in 15 frames per second to save some file size. And now we're doing both of them in low bitrate. Time lapse, and going right in from 1 frame per second. Now we're going into the 10 frame per second time lapse. How's that for parking mode? So let's talk about the Vantrue N4 Pro. So I have a big concern here. The collision detection takes 10 to 12 seconds on average before it starts recording. So to me, how is that effective? To me, it makes it completely irrelevant. But the other concern I have is this option, this thing that pops up right here. Tip, please select collision detection if in summer exposure environment. Now, why is Vantrue putting that little disclaimer on there when you go to select parking mode? Like, for me, that is not good. That's like it's not going to really record anything. It's going to be low current draw, but it's only going to record 10 to 12 seconds after impact. So basically makes it relevant for parking mode. And if I was selling this to a client, which we don't currently sell this product, but let's say we end up being Vantrue dealers, or I end up installing Vantrue products for other customers, I'm going to strongly recommend using like a low bitrate recording or a time-lapse recording. Because to me, those seem like they're going to be reliable. They're going to pick up some information. Because if somebody comes up, hits your vehicle, you're at least going to have some information. While if someone backs into you and drives away, they're gone. You're not going to catch anything, especially when it's 10 to 12 seconds before it starts recording. You know, a lot of people ask me, well, that thinkware is so much more money, which it really isn't that much more money. But they ask me, like, why is it so much more money than that? Well, this is one of the reasons why. When they have that low parking mode, it typically wakes up within 1 to 2 seconds and starts recording after impact. So that makes more sense. There's a high chance that you're still going to pick up something as a result of a collision of somebody backing into you. Most times I find it wakes up and the vehicle's still moving, right, from the impact, and it starts recording right then and there. These are all things to consider depending on what you're trying to accomplish when it comes to parking mode. We're testing current draw. 3-channel current draw, 612 milliamps and 7.6 watts for the Viofo, 727 milliamps and 9 watts for Vantrue. In 2-channel mode, it's 530 milliamps and 6.6 watts for Viofo, and the Vantrue is 530 milliamps and 6.6 watts. In 1-channel mode, the Viofo is 369 milliamps, 4.6 watts, and the Vantrue is 510 milliamps and 6.3 watts. The low battery protection. So what we basically are going to do is we're going to turn it down to 11.9 volts as both dash cameras are set to 12 volt low battery protection. And what's going to end up happening is it's going to take about 1.5 minutes for the Viofo to actually shut down, while the Vantrue takes 5 minutes to shut down from the low battery protection. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, just basically showing you the differences between Vantrue and Viofo's parking mode. If you do have any questions, please leave them down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm Ben from Safe Drive Solutions, your dash cam specialists. Parking mode cable. Both the Viofo and Vantrue parking mode cables need to be hooked up to power, ground, and ignition. Now, the main difference between these two is the low battery protection cutoff. On the cable for Vantrue, it only has settings of 11.6 and 12 volts for low battery protection, while the Viofo has 11.8, 12, 12.2, and 12.4 volts cutoff. Parking recording duration. So for me, this is a very big difference between Vantrue and Viofo. This is where Viofo sails way past Vantrue in terms of settings. So Vantrue has no settings for parking recording duration, which basically means if you put it into parking mode with this unit in your vehicle, it's going to go until the low battery protection kicks in. So if that's 4 hours, if that's 12 hours, if that's 3 hours, whatever it ends up being, it's going to go until the low battery protection kicks in. Now, if you're someone like me who likes to also tell your customers that we want to have more of a consistent parking mode, so instead of getting 12 hours one night and then 10 minutes the next night because you don't drive it for that much and your battery's been depleted lower, so The Viofo has options of 30 minutes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 12, 24, and 48-hour intervals. You might be wondering, why would this be important? Well, let's say you're somebody who goes around and you have like massage appointments, you go shopping, you have little things that you want to do, and maybe all you really need is it to record for 2 hours while you're parked, which isn't a big deal. You just want to cover while you go into the shopping market. Well, Viofo, you can actually set it for that. That way, when it's parked in your garage, it's not recording at all, because why do you really need it to record overnight when it's sitting in your garage every night? While the Vantrue doesn't really have any set time limits. It will go until the low battery protection kicks in. So this is definitely a very big benefit to having a Viofo dash camera. So let's talk about the different size cables. So these are both the respective rear camera cables for the Vantrue and the Viofo dash cameras. So there's positives and negatives out of both of these. One, the Vantrue uses a USB-C to go from the front to the rear. It plugs in a little bit nicer to the unit, a little bit easier than the Viofo. I know some people will say they struggle with plugging this one in at times. So, while the Viofo, this is very small. Look at the thickness of these two cables. So, if you're an installer or a do-it-yourselfer and you want to run the cable from the front to the back, the Viofo one is definitely way easier to tuck in and hide the wiring than the Vantrue. LCD screen. The Vantrue N4 Pro has a 3.19-inch LCD screen. So when actually looking at these two units side by side, the A139 Pro, as you can tell, has no LCD screen. So if you do want to do any settings adjustments, you need to log in via the Wi-Fi app and actually do all those changes. While with the Vantrue N4 Pro, you can actually go in here and change everything right directly through there. You can also see the live video of me smiling, and you can see the interior camera, rear camera, and the front camera all through this little LCD screen. So keep that in mind. If you're after an LCD screen, obviously the Vantrue N4 Pro is the one for you. Video length recording and loop recording. The Viofo A139 Pro has options of 1, 2, 3, 5, or 10-minute video length recording, while Vantrue has 1, 3, or 5-minute options. File list organization. The Vantrue app, when you're viewing videos, have the options of normal, event, or photo. Now, when you go into the Viofo app, they've just recently done this big upgrade. Now you have the option of actually segregating between all front, interior, and the rear camera. You can also go into all files, locked files, and parking files. This to me is a very big breakthrough for making it even easier and for them competing with a lot of the Korean manufacturers like Thinkware. Interior camera. So both these cameras have infrared interior camera systems. So basically what it does, the front cabin camera, it utilizes infrared LED lights, which automatically works once it detects low light in car cabin and presents clear black and white image recordings. So both these units have three options. You can either have them constantly on, off, or in auto. Now, personally for me, I would recommend utilizing it in auto mode. And the reason why I would utilize it in auto mode is because when it sees that it's dark out, as you can see in the video here, it actually goes to black and white. Okay? That way it's picking up any heat signatures that are going on within the cabin. Now, when you look at what happens during the day, then it goes into full normal color like your normal recordings. Right now we're actually testing both dash cameras in 3-channel mode. So right now we're going to test how the microphone sounds. You'll be able to hear the difference between the microphone on the Vantrue N4 Pro and the Viofo A139 Pro. So we're also going to be able to check out the interior camera, and both of them are in auto, and currently from when I looked at the last live view on the Viofo A139 Pro, it should be in black and white because it's not bright out at all. So you'll be able to see the differences between these two interior cameras. So as we drive through Mission downtown, I want to highlight the differences between these two 3-channel dash cameras. So the main difference is the A139 Pro, the actual interior camera is up here. So you'll see my hand here. I have it mounted on top of the rear view mirror. So what's nice about the A139 Pro is you have the flexibility for the actual camera to be mounted wherever you want on your front windshield. So if you have different things in your way, you can mount it in different spots. Now the Vantrue N4 Pro, as you can see, I'm putting my hand right in front of it right now, is mounted down low on the windshield. So you're limited to your mounting options for this particular dash camera because the camera is actually built into it. Now, a lot of Uber drivers do tend to like this type of setup because you don't have to worry about trying to find some other real estate to mount the other camera, and they like to just kind of stick it on the windshield and have the cord plugged in, right? Obviously, I'm a little bit more of a installer or technician. I like hiding all the wires, making it look really nice, and hiding everything. So, you know, it is nice that everything goes to one unit in terms of how the N4 Pro is designed, and people are going to like that or they're not going to like it. Just keep that in mind when you're trying to figure out your mounting options for your vehicle. Because, I mean, I just did a Ford Escape the other day, and we ended up having the N4 Pro mounted very low on the windshield because that was the best mounting solution to also make use of the interior camera. So if you're one of these picky people that wants it hidden behind the rear view mirror, I'd probably stay clear of the N4 Pro because you're probably not going to get it there unless you can get it up high and mount it off to one side of the mirror in order to actually record the interior. While the A139 Pro, because it's not all built into one, you are actually losing frames. So, you know, when we start talking about the resolution or bitrate, the actual A139 Pro drops down to 24 frames per second when you put it into 3-channel dash camera mode, while the Vantrue N4 Pro still maintains 30 frames per second when it comes down to utilizing it in 3-channel mode. So keep in mind when you're comparing these two units, the Viofo, you can actually push and hold a button very quickly and it will change to 2-channel mode and give you that 30 frames per second for front and rear very quickly. High dynamic range. High dynamic range is a technology that expands the range of brightness from the brightest to the darkest as close as possible to what the human eye sees. For example, applying HDR when passing through a dark tunnel adjusts the light reflections in the tunnel to bring color to life. When passing through a dazzling road, the sunlight is properly adjusted to make things look sharp. Right? HDR is installed to remove light blurring when driving, and it shows clear recording quality in various lighting conditions such as backlight and tunnels. So the main difference between these two units is the Viofo A139 Pro only has HDR on the front camera. Now, a couple notable differences is the A139 Pro has HDR Auto. What this means is you can actually set what time HDR turns on. So some people actually only want high dynamic range to work at night. So you can actually go in here, as you can see on the screen here, and actually change those settings and adjust the time of when you want HDR to be on or off. Now, when we look at the Vantrue, this is kind of a big breakthrough. It actually has HDR on front, interior, and the rear camera. However, where they are lacking is for those the dashcam enthusiasts, right, that are very tech specific and only want HDR to work at night. The Vantrue only allows you to turn it on or off. It doesn't actually allow you to set any time for it, similar to Viofo. This is the Vantrue N4 Pro versus the Viofo A139 Pro. We're going to show you the tunnel test and nighttime driving. This is all going to be focused on high dynamic range. HDR is turned on throughout this entire video. Enjoy. the blackout test, we're going to turn the headlights off and then back on, and off and on again to see how it does in low light environment. Voice control. The N4 Pro dash camera comes with the advanced voice control feature, which allows you to take photos, mute, unmute the microphone, end recording, and lock video with speech commands in multiple languages: English, Japanese, Russian, Chinese, protecting your hands away from the wheel while driving and keeping your eyes on the road safely. The Viofo A139 Pro does not have any voice control. If you are looking for voice control in the Viofo dashcam brand, you should look at the A119 Mini 2. Pros and cons. Let's start with the Vantrue N4 Pro. Pros: LCD screen, magnetic mount. It'll do 30 frames per second in 3-channel mode. It has HDR, also known as high dynamic range, for front, rear, and interior cameras. Voice control. This unit also supports updates via the Wi-Fi app. Cons: parking mode needs some updates. Collision detection taking 10 to 12 seconds to start recording after impact, which basically makes that setting irrelevant. Parking recording duration should be added into settings so that you can limit the amount of time it records in parking mode for more consistency. File list organization needs to make it easier to find video files. No HDR auto timer. CPL filter is optional and not included in the package, and the audio quality is poor. The Viofo A139 Pro's HDR auto timer allows you to actually set when you want the high dynamic range to work. Parking mode is a step up on Vantrue. You can set the parking record duration and limit the amount of time it records in parking mode. The parking mode cable has more flexibility settings from 11.8 all the way to 12.4 volts. It will record at 60 frames per second in 2K. It has great audio quality in comparison. The CPL filter is included in the box, and the file list organization via the app keeps improving. Cons: there's no LCD screen, which means you have to use the app in order to make the settings changes. You need to disconnect all cables if you want to remove the unit and bring it into the house. In 3-channel mode, it will record at 24 frames per second. There is no voice control. HDR is only on the front camera. And you can only do updates via taking your micro SD card out, putting in the desktop computer, and downloading the update to the micro SD card. So my final thoughts on the Vantrue N4 Pro. Now, I feel it is a very good contender. It did very well in terms of video quality when we were showing how it did like at night and during the day, picking up license plates. I feel that it is a good unit, but I do feel it's really lacking in parking mode. You know, we really need to see some advancements in parking mode. And what I'm talking about is it needs to be on a timer so you can limit the amount of time it will record in parking mode so you're not depleting somebody's battery down every single night. And for me, that's important. The other thing is you need to have HDR auto. That way, you know, there's a lot of people who don't like using HDR during the day. I'm not one of them. I'm completely fine using HDR during the day. But I know a lot of other people that don't like that option. They really like using HDR at night and using its qualities for that. So Vantrue really needs to look at adding the HDR auto in as well. So the other thing is their parking mode, the collision detection taking 10 to 12 seconds. I mean, I love that they finally added in collision detection, but ThinkWare is doing it in about 1 second. And I mean, straight up, I was just at a client's house the other day. They were telling me that they were upset that the ThinkWare didn't actually catch the incident. And I said, well, actually, I'm really happy because it did what it was supposed to do, and it got 1 second after impact. So it literally has the vehicle hit them, and it starts recording directly after they were hit. And even the witness seeing them actually hit their vehicle as well. So the video footage shows 1 second after impact. It has them driving away and everything, which is perfect because that means it's working. But if it's working like the Vantrue, where it's 10 to 12 seconds later, that person hit your vehicle, they're gone already. You have nothing. So there are some little tweaks that I think they've made a lot of progress, but I still feel they're a little bit behind on a couple different things, like even the parking mode cable only having very limited options. But I will tell you this, about 2 or 3 years ago when I installed a few Vantrues, they only had like an 11.4 and 11.6 voltage cutoff. So now they have 12 volts. So they are making strides. So this is a company that is doing well. And so anyways, Viofo is still where it has. They keep growing. They're making changes quickly. You know, even the file list organization, they just made a huge update. So if you haven't updated your app, I would definitely take a look at that because, you know, it allows you to now change between front, rear, and interior camera when you're actually viewing it, which I showed earlier in the video. But I think that's the big thing. I also think that's why there were some people a few months ago complaining about the 512 gig cards and 256 gig cards. I think that's why Viofo actually separated them, is so that you didn't have those problems with super long load times with the big SD card. So anyways, great contender. I think if you did buy this, I don't think you're making a massive mistake or anything like that. But you need to keep in mind and just think about some of the parking mode challenges, some of the app changes that I think, who knows, maybe they'll make it in upcoming years. But other than that, for me, I'm sticking with the Viofo A139 Pro. And that's it. I'm Ben from Safe Drive Solutions, your dash cam specialist. If you do have any questions or concerns, please leave them down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, if you are looking to support us, check us out, safedrivesolutions.com. We ship to the United States and Canada. Cheers.